So welcome back, velofan. I just wanted to give you guys a bit of an update on what's been going on, because I realised there's been a bit of a gap between the last video I posted and now. That was triggered really by meeting a chap last night at the Church Alarms bike night. So it was really cool. He was the first guy ever to come up to me and say, "You're the guy with the YouTube channel, you know." So finally, like, getting some recognition from people that are out there riding their bikes, which is great, because like I said, obviously my channel is completely unsupported, unfunded, and not commercial in whatsoever. So anyways, that just reminded me, okay, let's explain a little bit about what's going on. So if we look at this bike here first, and I'll talk a little bit about the other bikes maybe. So this one, 1928 velocette K&S overhead cam 350cc. Really nice bike, but it's been in my possession for about 10 years, I think, and I've been trying to restore it over those 10 years through various different things. The problem I'm having is that my spark plugs die after, say, like just 5 miles of riding, and so initially I was thinking possibly it could be the carb, because the carb was actually restored for an NSU bike, not a velocette, but I think the main issue is oil. So the top of the piston gets oily, and I think this is causing a problem. I tried to ride this bike same way as British Day, which is like maybe a couple of weeks ago now, just because a mate of mine was coming all the way from Weymouth. So I was like, yeah, I'll try and make it on this bike. At the time, the bike was almost in this state as you see it now, and I just thought, oh, Saturday I'll get in the garage, get it all sorted, and Sunday go for the ride. So I did all the work. I went for a couple of short test rides. It didn't seem perfect, and I only had one sort of good plug left out of like 10 plugs I've got. They've all been used once before, so I thought, oh, they might be okay, might not. Didn't really want to risk it. But yeah, so anyway, so I thought, okay, well, let's risk it and go on the Sunday. I knew it was touch and go, so it's a much longer ride for me to get there than I've ever done on this before, really. And so I just set off. I was in second gear most of the way, because I figured if I kept the revs up a little bit, possibly, if it was running too rich, then maybe, but I wasn't caning it. Like I said, it's only got 3 gears, and I was probably only doing like 40 mile an hour or something like that. No speedo, don't know what I'm doing speed wise. So anyway, so yeah, oh, by the way, I'll be putting up a few stills during this catch up, and hopefully I'll get on to show you some actual work that I'm going to do on it, or whatever, maybe if we have time. So yeah, so the bike overheated, the exhaust silencer, all the paint came off of that, which is crazy. The exhaust blued quite a lot, and this ring that holds the exhaust on to the head, it's kind of discoloured, and also the head, where I put lots of layers of this heatproof paint on, it actually also gone a little bit white just through too much heat. And also inside the head, I can see the exhaust valve is white and the inlet valve is like oily black, so it's a bit weird how within one combustion chamber you've got such an extreme. But obviously I guess it was just getting really hot on the way out, when the gas is out or something. I'd had the magneto sent off to Rutland Dynamos, good service. It's just that I couldn't figure out why my plugs keep dying, and I just thought, oh, maybe it's the mag. Although I'd had it refurbished some time ago, I figured maybe over the 8 or 10 years I've been restoring it, it's got damp. So anyway, I sent it to him, stripped it apart, nothing really wrong with it, back together again. So I'm guessing that was never the problem. And yeah, and also the cam ring got damaged in dismantling, so, and they're apparently not made anymore, so actually in a way I probably shouldn't have bothered touching it, it was probably all good. So anyway, and then obviously I've had a few goes at the rings on this piston. This is an old original Hepalite 1415 piston that was the exact piston that this bike should have had, the same correct profile on the crown, but when it came to me from a really good supplier, Martin Arscott, he said, yes, the piston's been used, it's not in bad condition. I probably made it in worse condition now. I think when I got it, it was actually looking pretty good. But he did say you might want to change the rings, and I just at the time felt like, well, these rings are like 1/8 of an inch thick, like twice the thickness of modern rings. So I thought, I'm not going to find a supplier and all this of it. And just, that lack of knowledge within this ancient kind of, motorcycle world that I live in. So anyway, so I had the original rings fitted. I was having issues with the plugs. I then bought KSS Mark II piston rings and put 2 rings in per slot, and I filed them down. because they were too deep. I did all that, ran it, still same problem, and I thought, you know, oh, maybe because I've filed the inside of these rings, maybe you know, it's not a consistent back pressure for the depth of the groove and all that other stuff. So I was like, oh, that hasn't really worked. So then I went back to the original rings, ran it, and I said, now obviously another major failure. So anyway, but luckily someone that I bumped into at the Sound Village Museum explaining my problems told me about a company called Cox and Turner. They're amazing. I phoned them up and I said, I want rings for this machine, and I expected them not to know what the bike was or anything, because most companies have never heard of something that's nearly, well, it's 98 years old. They knew, you know, when I said 1928 velocette, they obviously sort of knew what I was on about. They asked the size of the bore. I said 74mm. But I said they were a bit like unsure what I wanted, because I was saying, oh, that these rings are double thickness, and they were like, well, what do you mean? But anyway, I said, look, I can give you the piston number if you like. And once I did that, he said, oh yeah, well, we've got the information. So we've got them basically. I thought they're going to have to be custom made, but they weren't. They were shed on the shelf. So I phoned up on the Monday, and they arrived Tuesday. I mean, that's just, like I said, that's like the best service you can ever wish for. So that's great. So what my next job is on this bike is, I'll be fitting the new rings. I need to end gap the rings, so I might show that process or not, depends on if I think people really want to see that. Anyway, and then reassemble all that top end stuff back on, test ride it, see how we're getting on. If that still doesn't solve the problem, then I'm going to investigate two further things. One will be the oil pressure again. I've already checked the oil pressure and adjusted it. I'll check the oil pressure, because I currently think maybe too much oil is going to the crank and not enough to the top. And then the other thing I might do is fit new valves and guides. I've bought them and they're slightly different stem diameters to the original. I think the inlet one's a slightly narrower stem or something. But I never fitted it because I measured everything and everything was in tolerance. So, but that might be something I might do, because I'm like, you know, I just can't get my head around where's this oil coming from, you know, that's causing a problem. And yeah, and to expand on that, the reason I think this thing overheated so bad on the Sound Villa trip was because my theory is not that the carbs jetted wrong, but it could be. There's no information on the jets. I can't see what they are. It's in a MAC carb, not in a MAL. You cannot buy the jets. You have to get them made. So again, more problems for me to try and figure out. But no, I think it's because all that oil's in there. You know, how can the petrol be burnt correctly when you've got a vast amount of oil? So my theory is it's running leaner because it's not able to burn properly because of all this oil. But I might be wrong. I'm just thinking, like, imagine if you put diesel into a petrol car, you know, it's not going to be great. So anyway, so yeah, so then, but because of that frustration, because I went, like I say, to Sammy's and I basically had to get taken home in a van by a really kind chap that basically only seen me once before on my G50, so that was great that he recognised me and all that. And he had a little van, so he gave me a lift home. Yeah, so because of that frustration, I decided to put this up for sale within the Owners Club. I'm only inviting offers because I don't actually really want to sell it, and I know current prices are so low that it won't reflect what I put into it. I've put into this double what it's currently probably worth, and back in the day, like say 2020 when prices peaked, it would have probably been worth close to what I put into it. I reckon, you know, if I really wanted to, I might have lost, say, I don't know, £2 on it or something, but current way it's looking at, I might lose £8, so I'm not going to do that. So I'll keep going, I'll keep persevering with these rings and all the rest of it, and then also, like I said, you know, if someone makes me a sensible offer, it might go, because I don't actually really sort of need it, and it's still got a few little issues that are obviously bugging me. So that's that one, right. And then if we talk about the KTT, obviously if you guys remember, I had a massive crack in the gearbox, so that's been welded by a friend of mine. I've remounted the gearbox, but it's not all done yet, because I need to change the length of the primary chain. It was too long, stretched. I was actually grinding a hole, or a couple of grooves in this bit at the back of the bike, which is something to do with the footrest. So I'm trying to move the gearbox forward, but then of course can't go forward enough, so I need a half link and all that other aggravation. So that will be done. I also decided to send the magneto from that bike, which is a lovely TT, rare TT style early BCH magneto, and sent that again to Peter at Rutland's. That one did need a full overhaul. He said, yeah, it's all original inside. Someone had been in there once before, so there's a little section of the ring cam busted off, but yeah, everything else is all original basically. So all that shellac insulation was causing an issue. So that's had a full refurb because this bike started to become more like a 5 bump start, and it needs to be first bump. You know, when you're bumping a bike, you don't want to be running around and getting hot in this kind of ridiculous heat we're in at the moment. So yeah, so that's been fully refurbed, so I'm absolutely hoping that that is going to solve my start problem, because when I bought this bike it was a first bump start every single time. But I know the guy who put this bike back together when I bought it literally just cobbled it together in a way, as in like, yes, did a good job, but would only replace stuff if it was completely knackered. So the magneto had never been sent away to be dealt with. So, you know, the bike, you know, again from 1934, it's really knocking on now. So yes, so that magneto is done, so that should be sorted. Gearbox is welded. Just need to figure out if that's going to hold or whether the crack's going to reappear, because I haven't got that many options. I can't find another box that's got exactly the right configuration of the gear lever and all that other stuff and the way it mounts with the 2 bolts. So that'll be done. That'll be put back together. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get some more joyful rides on the KTT. That is a beautiful bike. Obviously I've been mostly spending my time on the G50 recently, which had a crack to the bracket for the exhaust, so that had to be welded, so I was down to like no bikes working. But yeah, so I've also made some braided fuel hoses up for the KTT. That's a new little job I've done, which, you know, you need a little crimping tool and all that, so that's been done. So that's going to hopefully make it look a little bit nicer, won't improve anything probably. So yeah, cool. Anyway, we'll get on with velocette. Hopefully I'll put some stills up, some images, and then yeah, we'll see what I can do with this bike, as in, is it can actually, I've not actually done an onboard video of this bike yet, because obviously I've only ever taken it out for a very little test ride. So yeah, whenever we do a sort of like proper maiden voyage on it, hopefully I'll get an onboard video of that. So cool. Okay, right, so I've got this tool here, piston ring compressor. I've never really been able to get on with these things, so chances are I'll just hold it with my fingers like I've done in the past. I have got this little tool here, and that is supposed to help me like spread the rings, get it over and on. Yeah, I might try that again. Might end up just doing the fingers. I need to check the end gap. In theory they'll be supplied with the correct end gap, but you never know obviously. So I was going to get the barrel up, push the rings into it, and then we'll just check. I want 10 thou on the compression rings and I want a 12 thou gap on the oil ring. Alright, so just need to check the end gap. I'm going to start with the oil rings. So we got the original oil ring and the new one. So I just wanted to check like how deep they are. So if we go in millimeters, that'll do. So the old ring measures 2.59 millimeters and the new oil ring measures 2.64. Just check what I had. It's possible this one had too big an end gap. Obviously I wouldn't have been able to do anything about it because they're old rings. Yes, so that's got an 18, sorry I'm like fucking all over the place here and I with the old camera. Yeah, that's 18 thou, right, so that's no good, but luckily like I said, that's the old ring. We are changing that. Okay, so we're on to now trying to put the barrel back on. I've gapped the rings correctly, 10 thou for the compression, 12 thou for the oil. I think one of the compression rings obviously would be perhaps slightly more than 10 thou, I just got a bit carried away, and the oil ring might be again slightly more than 12, but not a lot, you know, so I'm happy with that. It's as good as I can get it. I'm glad they supplied the rings ungapped actually, because obviously if your barrel's a bit worn, you can, you know, yeah, you can get that gap without having to take anything off possibly. So anyway, the reason why I think this is quite a hard stage is because the barrel's heavy, cast iron, and I need to try and somehow hold this barrel in one hand yet compress the rings with the other. And the biggest thing that's the issue is I don't want this piston to move position, because I've got it at top dead center. You can see this Oldham's coupling here. I don't want to change anything in regard to the timing, the valve timing, so I want to be able to put my head back on and sit it on yeah, and not have anything moved. If this stuff starts moving, obviously I've got to start looking at timing again, and I honestly can't remember how I set that all up. It was a I put some oil into the bore rather than on the rings, because I thought it might make it too slippery if I had loads of oil on these rings. Okay, so that's a bit annoying. Also, I thought I had the second ring like successfully over the second ring, but I did not, and obviously the piston, the barrel was on a bit of an angle to the piston, and so oh, okay, so even my top ring is not properly on. I thought I'd got the top ring in, so that's all gone wrong. Lift it up, take it off for a minute because that's doing my head in. Okay, so what I might have to do is I have to bring the end gap around on this ring. Didn't want to do that. I wanted to have the gaps all like round different sides of the piston, so there's no chance of compression getting past, but it's harder for me to see what's going on with the end of the ring when I'm trying to pinch it if I can't see the end of the rings. So that should be on successfully. Okay, so go. There we go, we're on. Okay, nice. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did put some Castellar up the bore. Like I say, not on the rings. Actually, I did say that, didn't I? Yeah. So that's going on with not a lot of oil. Nice. Okay, that's set down nicely. So I've cleaned up the head, got rid of all that nasty stuff, so I can go back on now. Hopefully you can see, possibly, it's just like copper gasket around here on this, like the top flange of the barrel. As standard, these didn't have any gasket, it's just interference fit between this top spigot and then the recess in the head, so that's still the same. This gasket thing I've fitted is it's not actually a tight fit, so it's just kind of like just free, like it's probably just about free. But the idea is, I'm just looking at my bolts now. I've actually kept these in the specific order so that, oh, I have to have a little look now. Okay. Yeah, I've kept them in a specific order so they go back in the same place. Not that it really matters, apart from this one here, it doesn't have the thread going down into it. The others have thread for the cambox. For some reason it doesn't go into that one, it goes into the head on that side. So anyway, yeah, so yeah, that copper gasket thing It's just because apparently the head, I believe it's the head, can crack. It's one of the, like, I guess, faults, if you like, of the design, where it has quite a big gap. They're not quite threading in. I'll have to look at that. Yeah, so it's I think it might be, yeah, I can't remember, maybe it's the later ones, they have a gasket or something, I can't remember, but I just decided to fit something that would kind of take up the gap and yeah, like not actually act as like a gasket, but hopefully as stuff expands with heat, gives me a little bit of protection for the head. Just gonna, yeah, have to deal with getting those down. So some are going in, some are not, and I think the ones that are not is actually because of my little gasket thing. I haven't got the holes drilled in exactly the right places, or whatever, something like that. I don't have a torque setting for this, so because it's steel into steel and, you know, all iron basically, I'll just go really, really tight, and I'll try and do it like this stud, then that, opposites, then that, then that, then that, then that, and just keep going around. Quite often you think you've got this as tight as it will go, but by the time you do the other four, then this one can go a little bit more. Alright, next job, we need to get the cambox refitted. You can see I've put the head on. You'll notice with this cambox that two of the bolts I've left remaining in the cambox, these two big ones, you'll see in a minute. That's because I think it's a struggle to get them in after you've got it kind of like in position. So that should just sit like that, should just locate back on like that. Gaps seem massive, so let me just have a look around here, hang on. Aha, so it hasn't located correctly. There we go. That's just sat on a lot better now. So that's good. It's sort of like, can't remember what they're called now, like castle nut type thing. It's got originally like an asbestos string as the gasket, and I have actually stuck with that, so I'm still using the string stuff. Obviously I've bought new stuff from the club which doesn't have asbestos in, but yes, rather than opting for a rubber seal which some people have, I think they must machine something in there after engineering to fit, like I say, like a rubber O-ring or something. But yeah, so these ones again want to be like tensioned down evenly, so just keep going from, yeah, diagonals. But at the moment I'm just trying to get them on and starting to thread.